Chapter 11. An Exchange of Gods. Could the ancient parable of spirits hold the key to what is now taking place in America and Western civilization? As the gospel entered into Western civilization, the gods departed, the spirits left the house. It was the advent of Christianity, the word and presence of God, the ascendancy of monotheism over paganism that caused the departure. But if these things should be weakened or removed, then the departed spirits and ancient gods would return. The door left open, and so it began. The hedge protecting American civilization was progressively weakened. The moral and ethical framework derived from the scriptures was overturned, so the two primary safeguards against the gods and that which in ancient times had cast them out, monotheism and the word, were now being nullified. The door that had closed to the gods would be reopened. In these mythologies, Baal entered into battle against other gods, and not only against the gods of Canaanite mythology, but against the God of Israel and his people, against all who kept his ways. His battle was waged in the realm of morality, spirituality, politics, and culture. So in late 20th century America, the return of Baal would bring about a cultural, civilizational, and spiritual collision. It would at times be described as a culture war, but it was much deeper than culture. The conflict was ultimately spiritual, that of Baal against God, the rematch of an ancient battle. In and out, he came in via a spirit of openness and a call to embrace new ideas and ways. But his entrance would ultimately result in the progressive closing of the nation's openness to God. Every step the nation took to accept a new morality would be matched by an equal and opposite step toward the rejection of God and his ways. What was once seen as the source of virtue and freedom and joy was now viewed as a hindrance, a restraint, an oppression, as Paul had been cast out of the Jewish world and then, by the gospel, out of Western civilization, he would now seek to cast God out of America. What had been done to the gods in ancient times would now be done to God, America, and the West would begin casting him out. It would happen subtly at first, but in time would deepen and widen and continue into the 21st century. God would be driven out of the halls of government, out of the public square, out of movie theaters, out of television sets, out of the arts, out of ethics, out of hearts, out of minds, and out of lives. Empty houses and returning spirits. But the ancient parable held an ominous warning for America and the West. The house, having been emptied, would not remain empty. Having cast out God, the gods would come in to replace him. Having expelled the Spirit of God, other spirits would take possession. Baal would make America his home. He would be the spirit that, in the parable, then ushers the other spirits into the house. And so America's turning from God in the early 1960s would usher in other spirits and gods and a future that no one at the time could have imagined. The law of the ancient parable would manifest in virtually every realm of American culture. When the nation removed prayer and the Bible from the schools, to some observers it seemed a small thing. But the removal left the house spiritually empty, and according to the parable, it would not remain empty. Other spirits would come to replace what was cast out, what would in time come into American classrooms would have been unimaginable to those alive at the time of the emptying. The nation's children would now be trained against the ways of God. The American school system had become a house of spirits. Baal goes to Hollywood and everywhere else. So too American movie screens, having been emptied of God, would now be filled with that which was once forbidden and that which warred against the ways of God. It would happen to American television, American universities, American popular music, American youth and children's culture, American corporations, American houses of government, even some American house of worship. Everything was darkening. The nation's institutions, having been emptied of God, were turning into house of spirits. And it was not only the nation's institutions. America itself was now becoming a house of spirits. Could Baal actually manifest in America as he did in ancient Israel, in physical form